Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Crack a Pack a Day. Every day, I'm going to open a booster pack of Magic the Gathering cards and evaluate the contents, choosing one of them to take as if I were taking part in a draft and this was pack one, pick one. Today, we're going to be opening a pack of Magic Origins, the final core set. Why don't we open it up and take a look? Our first card is Smashed to Smithereens, an instant for 1 and a red. Destroy target artifact. Smash to Smithereens deals 3 damage to that artifact's controller. Like most artifact destruction spells, Smash to Smithereens is a sideboard card. You're going to wait and see what your opponent is playing in game 1, and if they have enough artifacts, then you're going to bring it in out of the sideboard. As a sideboard card, it's certainly not a first pick. Amprint Tactician, a 3/3 human soldier for 2 white. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. I like Amprint Tactician. He's a team pump spell that leaves behind a sizable body afterwards. In an ideal situation, you've played a creature on turn 2 and a creature on turn 3, then on turn 4 you play Amprint Tactician, both your other creatures get +1/+1, and probably get to attack past your opponent's creatures. In the worst case scenario, where you're behind, you can't afford to attack, then the ability isn't that great. At that point, it's just a 3/3 for 4. That's a big enough body that even though it's not terribly efficient, it's not terrible either. Personally, I think Amprint Tactician is a reasonable card, probably isn't worthy of a first pick though. Fetid Imp, a 1/2 imp for 1 and a black. It has flying, and the ability Pay Black, it gains Death Touch until end of turn. At the start of the format, I was a huge fan of Fetid Imp. I'm actually a big fan of the small creatures with Death Touch, because I love how they manage to hold off your opponent's big creatures. And the fact it had flying meant that it could block almost anything. The 2 toughness was relevant because of all the Thopter tokens. As the format progressed, I fell out of love with Fetid Imp. He's still kind of powerful with that Death Touch and the flying, but the 1 power means that he's not very good on the offensive. Ideally, he'd be a star in a control deck, but Magic Origins is a little bit too aggressive for there to be any good control decks. Towards the start of the format, I would have considered Fetid Imp as possibly one of the top picks in this pack, but now, I don't think it is. I probably won't be taking it first. Disperse, an instant for 1 and a blue. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. I think Disperse is a pretty good card. Bounce is a very important tool in Blue's armory, especially in an aggressive format like Magic Origins. The tempo boost you gain by bouncing one of their larger creatures for only 2 mana can often help you win games. Overall, I think Disperse is a pretty good card and may well be the top pick in this pack. Caustic Caterpillar is a 1/1 insect for green. With the ability 1 and a green, sacrifice Caustic Caterpillar, destroy target artifact or enchantment. As a 1/1 for 1, Caustic Caterpillar would need to have a really good ability to consider playing this in the main deck. Unfortunately, destroying an artifact or enchantment is pretty much a sideboard effect. I'm not going to be taking it first, if at all. Prickle Boar is a 3/3 boar for 4 and a red. As long as it's your turn, Prickle Boar gets +2/+0 and has first strike. A 3/3 for 5 is very unimpressive. A 5/3 first strike for 5, on the other hand, is pretty good. Therefore, you're never really going to want Prickle Boar on the defensive. It's definitely an aggressive card, and at 5 mana, it's almost certainly going to be the top end of your mana curve. I don't think Prickle Boar has the power to warrant being a pack 1 pick 1, but it's definitely something to consider for future picks. Reeve's Soul is a sorcery for 1 and a black. Destroy target creature with power 3 or less. Reeve's Soul is very efficient removal. It's only a sorcery, but for 2 cost, you can kill any creature with power 3 or less. That covers pretty much every 1-drop, 2-drop, and 3-drop, and a number of 4 and 5 drops too. For example, the Prickle Ball. On your turn, it's only a 3/3. You could use a 2 mana spell to kill a 5 mana spell. If you did that on turn 5, you'd still have 3 mana left over to do other things with your turn. With its cheap cost, Reef Soul is efficient removal and is definitely one of the top picks in this pack. Dreadwaters, a sorcery for 3 and a blue. Target player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, where X is the number of lands you control. Mill is not an effective strategy in Magic Origins. To be fair, it's not a very effective strategy in a number of limited sets, but with Magic Origins being as aggressive as it is, it's definitely not a card you want to be taking. Dreadwaters is not going to be my pick. Rocks Maulers, a 4/4 Rhino Soldier for 4 and a green. It has Trample and Renown too. Rocks Maulers is a pretty nice card. A 4/4 for 5 isn't terribly under the curve, and it has Trample and Renown too, so even if your opponent blocks with a creature with toughness 3 or less, you're still going to be getting the Renown bonus. At that point you've got a 6/6 Trample, and that's the kind of creature that can win you the game. Rocks Maulers is a pretty solid card, but I don't think it quite has the power to be considered for a pack 1 pick 1. Kythian's Tactics is a sorcery for 1 white. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. If you have Spell Mastery, they also gain Vigilance until end of turn. Kythian's Tactics as a team pump spell is a potential win condition in a white weenie deck. If you go wide with lots of small creatures, then cast Kythian's Tactics, that can potentially win you the game. As a sorcery, you're going to have to telegraph it. You're not going to be able to surprise your opponent in the middle of the combat step, for example. In the right deck, it's a good card, but I don't think it's good enough for me to be wanting to take it pack 1 pick 1. Our first uncommon is Magmatic Insight, a sorcery for red. As an additional cost to cast Magmatic Insight, discard a land card. Draw 2 cards. Whilst Magmatic Insight is cheap and allows you to draw 2 cards, that additional cost is a little bit problematic. I'm not sure when the ideal time to cast this spell is. You're not going to want to cast it on curve, because on turn 1, if you kept a hand with Magmatic Insight and an extra land card, well, that probably wasn't the best of ideas. Most of the red spells that allow you to discard cards to draw cards allow you to discard any card, which means that if you get land flooded, you can discard the lands, and if you need lands, you can discard non-lands. Unfortunately, Magmatic Insight only lets you do one of those 2. As a result, I don't think it's a very good card. I don't think I'm going to be taking this pack 1 pick 1. Blood-Cursed Knight is a 3/2 Vampire Knight for 1 white-black. As long as you control an enchantment, Blood-Cursed Knight gets +1/+1 and has lifelink. A 3/2 for 3 isn't too bad. You get the 3 power, but the toughness means that sometimes you'll trade for 2 drops. Unfortunately, when that 3 mana contains 2 different colours, that makes it a little bit more difficult to cast. Ideally, for 3 mana including 2 different colours, you'd want something a little more powerful than a 3/2. The ability revolves around the white-black synergy of enchantments. If you have enchantments, then for 3 mana you've got a 4/3 lifelink creature. And that's a pretty good deal, but how many enchantments are you going to want to have in your deck in order to get the bonus? Overall, I think Blood-Cursed Knight is an okay card in the white-black deck, but it's not the sort of thing you want to be taking pack 1 pick 1. Thopter Engineer is a 1/3 human artificer for 2 and a red. When it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 colourless Thopter artifact creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Artifact creatures you control have haste. A 1/3 for 3 is a little underpowered. On the other hand, a 2/4 for 3 is pretty good, and essentially that's what you have here. You get 2 power and 4 toughness. One of them's even on a flying creature, which can help you get past your opponent's defences. In addition, it grants all your artifact creatures haste, including the token you just put into play. Make sure you cast Thopter Engineer in your pre-combat main phase. Thopter Engineer is an efficient card, and for that reason has to be considered as possibly the top pick in this pack. Honoured Hierarch is a 1/1 human druid for green. It has Renown 1, and as long as it is renowned, it has Vigilance and tap, add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. Most 1/1 for 1s aren't worth playing. The exceptions tend to be creatures like Llanowar Elves that tap for additional mana. They allow you to use your turn 1 mana and then accelerate you to 3 mana on turn 2. Unfortunately, Honoured Hierarch doesn't come with that as standard. You'd have to cast him first turn, then attack, make him a 2/2, and then on turn 3 you'd accelerate yourself to 4 mana. That's working under the assumption that you're on the play and your opponent didn't play a turn 1 creature, or that you're on the draw and your opponent didn't play a turn 2 creature. In an aggressive format like Magic Origins, those are pretty big assumptions to make. In some other sets, the ability to tap for mana of any colour could be pretty useful, but like most core sets, Magic Origins is solidly a 2-colour set. You don't want your deck to be more than 2 colours. It's almost certainly not worth trying to use Honoured Hierarch in your deck, and thus I don't think he's going to be my first pick. We also have a Plains and an advert card. Why don't we review what we've got in our pack? And here's our pack. It seems to me that the clear winner in this pack is Reeve Soul. It's cheap, efficient removal. With the exception of Rock's Maulers, it can kill every other creature in the pack. Reeve Soul is the easy choice here. And that's about all we've got time for today. If you disagree with my choice, then please let me know in the comments below, on Facebook, or on Twitter. Have a good day now.